If you're identifying with pursuit and you're either on your pursuit or you're trying to figure out what your pursuit is going to look like, there's a good chance that traditional financial planning is not going to be the right solution for your needs. Hey there, welcome to today's episode of The Pursuit. Hope you've had a great week. It was a great week for me. Spent the first part of it out in California for a conference and the very first in-person official meeting for the AGC, the community that I co-founded for financial advisors. And it was a great time. Got to learn a lot about what's going on in the profession, talk to a lot of creators that were there. Earn Your Leisure was there. I did not get to talk to them, but I did get to meet Big Boy from Outkast. But there were a lot of financial advisors that were there that I would identify as creatives in our profession. And it was great to be around them, learning what they're doing, kicking around ideas, sharing what I'm thinking about, and just get some new ideas and some inspiration, and also just some confirmation of what I'm doing with RLS Wealth and what I'm doing here at The Pursuit, trying to bring the two worlds together. And as you saw in the subject for today, or the title of today's podcast, we're talking about life planning and what does that mean to you while you're on your pursuit. And I'm going to back into why I want to talk about this. We've mentioned it before, and life planning is not a new term here on Pursuit, but I spent some time with my good friend Scott Frank, who's a financial advisor. He's out in Encinitas, California, and he is the one who introduced me to life planning years ago. You can go back to All About Your Benjamins. He's been on the podcast before. We've done a couple videos together, but he is the one who introduced me to life planning as a practice. And it really resonated with me right out the gate because that was kind of how I was trying to work with my clients in the first place. I was asking the bigger questions, digging deeper, moving beyond just the numbers and trying to get people to really tell me what they wanted out of life. But I didn't press them hard. I just went with what they told me. I didn't challenge them to ask them why, which is where doing it more and more, going on my personal journey, going back and revisiting life planning, it's not just what is the initial thing somebody might say, but getting to the root of it, understanding really why is that what that individual wants or that family wants for their life. And that's going to apply to you and what we're going to talk about it here on The Pursuit. But I wanted to go back to spending some time with Scott. We spent 2 mornings, before, right at sunrise and before the sunrise, out on the ocean, me trying to surf, him successfully surfing. The second day that I actually went out surfing, the first day was with a group of people. The second day there, I went with Scott. I almost drowned a couple times. It was an initiation, throwing me into the beach at Huntington Beach, where a noob should not be out surfing. And then the third day, we went out to Newport Beach, a much calmer beach, and had some time to sit out there. And on our car rides and our walks, we were just talking about life planning and what he's building with his firm. And I was trying to tap into more to him about what more could I be bringing to the pursuit when it comes to figuring out what we want out of life and how to build a plan for that. So the reason I think life planning is so important to you, the viewer and the listener, is if you're identifying with pursuit and you're either on your pursuit or you're trying to figure out what your pursuit is going to look like, there's a good chance that traditional financial planning is not going to be the right solution for your needs. And the reason for that is traditional financial planning is very in the box. It is cut and dry, numbers in, numbers out, little emotions, not really going beyond whatever curriculum we may have studied as financial advisors, not really getting creative and thinking about how can we build a plan to support the life that you want to live, which is going to be non-traditional in most cases. You can live your pursuit going on a journey that takes you through the corporate world. There's nothing wrong with that. But I also think once you tap into your inner creator and you start expressing yourself, you might get either side hustles or side businesses or careers that lead you out of that traditional career path and into something new. Quick caveat before I go forward, a traditional career path can still be non-traditional. What I mean by that is you could always be in the corporate world. Again, there's nothing wrong with that at all, but you could take your approach to the corporate world and how you want to grow or how you want to work in it in a non-traditional way. You may not want to work 35 years at the same company and slowly progress up. Maybe you want to take sabbaticals. Maybe you want to be intentional that you spend 5 years here and 5 years there, consistently moving, but moving with intention. That is not necessarily always a traditional career path. I think the traditional career path we've been told is you go to college, you get a job. Hopefully you stay at a company forever, but statistics tell us most people move jobs 3 to 5 times, and that's the norm. And but maybe there's something different in your corporate career that makes it non-traditional, which is, again, where I think life planning is going to come into play, because to make these non-traditional moves within a corporate setting might need you to, may require you to attack your financial planning different than just a traditional way. So back to life planning and what it is. I originally was taught that life planning is aligning your dollars and your values, meaning trying to make sure that the values and the things you hold most near and dear to you are reflected in your dollars. And one of the early exercises is, well, tell me what your values are and tell me what you want to do, and then let me see your checkbook and let's see if they align. If you say that you care about taking care of the earth, and you care about your health and whatever else might be, and then I go look at your checkbook and your dollars are not aligned with that, they're not going to places that show you're buying healthy food or you're working out or sustainability within your spending, then your dollars and your values are not aligned. And a lot of times I think that most people's dollars and values aren't really in line for a number of reasons. One, maybe we've never thought about aligning our dollars and our values, so that's the obvious reason why. I think sometimes we don't really know what our values truly are, which is why I love the act of just asking why over and over and over to ourselves or to other individuals, to really find out, why do we believe the things we believe? Why do we hold the values we hold, and do we really believe in them? Are they ones that were instilled in us, that maybe as we've grown and experienced life, we have different values, we just have not kind of recalibrated and then taken that to our planning? And again, it's sometimes tough conversation. So I always identified with aligning, and I like that. And as I've gotten into Pursuit, I kind of want to take that concept of aligning dollars and values and maybe look at it from a different angle. And we've talked about this before, but it's not different, but it is. I would almost rather see, can we put our values and our passions and the things that are most important to us at the very center? And then we take that beautiful Pursuit circle and we build around it with your financial plan. So rather than having to align, because to me, alignment means there's give on both sides. And yes, you may have to give on some of your values. You may have to give on some of your passions. But if we can give little there, or maybe not give at all, I think that's the ultimate situation. It may not always be the case, but I would strive to say, let's put those in the middle and build around that with our financial plan to support that. So I think it's one and the same. I think it's saying the same thing, just a different angle on it. And for whatever reason, that angle resonates more with me and hits home and makes me want to take more action. So I want to talk about life planning from the standpoint of, let's put those values, the goals, the passions at the center of your plan and build around that. And the reason that it ends up being a circle and not a square, like I would say traditional financial planning, is it's got to be more fluid. It's got to be able to be moved. It's got to be in harmony, which is more like a circle. The box representing traditional planning is just, it's 4 lines connected. There's nothing fluid about it. It's just rigid. And a rigid plan is not going to work for you on your pursuing the life that you want. It's got to be more fluid. It's got to be able to expand and change and contract. So I think that the circle represents that better. Now, the tough thing about this is really sitting down and identifying, what are you putting at the center of your plan? And I can tell you some of the things that I have, but it's not about me. But to give you an idea, to get you started, for me, the center of my plan, before I even get to my career, it's my family, it's my health. And I said family first, is I've begun to shift the thinking of, okay, I need to take care of me first so I can be better for my family, better for my clients. And that's been a transition and something that's taken me a while to be okay with, because I always want to put my family first. And I would sacrifice my health, working out, eating healthy, sleeping, whatever it might be, so that the family was in the best shape. And what I realized last year and into the beginning of this year is that there is a cost to doing that. And indirectly, by putting my family first and sacrificing myself, I end up not being my best for my family, which is not put them first. Follow that one if you can. So taking care of myself, physically, emotionally, spiritually, that's important. That goes in the center. My family goes in the center. And then RLS Wealth goes into the center because my clients are everything to me. I love working with them. That goes in the center. So being able to have that career and serve them, but then also have the flexibility to go after my creative interests, Pursuit, AGC, creating content. Those are the things that are in the middle. What's less important, even though I still find time and dollars for them, is I do like to have trendy clothes and I like to buy new clothes. I have a nice car. Those are things that are important. But I don't have any desire to, have expensive wines or drink expensive liquors or have, cigars and or different things that people may have. You have to figure out what are the things beyond the immediate. So the family, the career, those things, the passions, what beyond that, when you start to get into the material things, there is room for that within the center of your plan, but you got to identify what's most important because you may need to give up on some of those. A example of the trade-off is, if we've talked about my enjoyment for California and that lifestyle and the weather and wishing to be out there, I would love that, but it's not so important that it needs to be in the center of my plan, because we could put that at the center of my circle. I could build my finances around it and I could change things financially to make that work, but I don't believe it would make my family as happy. And I truthfully don't know if the way things are currently for me, having a life in California would make me happy because of what I'd have to give up to make that happen. I'm spoiled. I live in Indiana. Cost of living here is very, very reasonable, and we have a very flexible, free living life because of that. If I were to fast forward and flip out to California, all things being equal, we would be okay, but we would not have the freedom and flexibility that we have now. And I value freedom and flexibility and the ability to buy a t-shirt like this from my friend on a whim. I value that more than being out in California. So understanding that and diving deep into me and knowing that allows me to build a better plan for me and for my family and for my pursuit. So the first step into building your life planning, if you're going to do it yourself, if you're going to find a financial advisor, it's looking for a financial advisor that does life planning. I do think that that's the best, because there's a component of this life planning and constructing the life that you need to hear some of these things back. It's one thing to write down what it is that you want out of life, what's most important, go through your ideal day, all of the exercises that you can do on your own. It's one thing to write it down. But as my friend Scott was telling me when we were talking, is he encouraged me to go through the life planning designation that maybe one day I will, just to go through the experience of it all, is that when you hear your words back, hearing resonates differently than you reading your own words. So you thinking it, is not as impactful. If you write it down, it creates more of an experience for you. It hits home more, it stays more, it's better. But then if you hear somebody else say it to you, there's some chemical in our brains that gets triggered that makes more emotions come into play, so you can feel more of your plan and really know if that's there for you. So I would encourage you to find a financial advisor that does life planning. If you need one, hit me up. I have a strong network and I can connect you to somebody that'll be a good fit for you. But if you're going to go out on your own, you've got to be honest with yourself and really look at your life and what are the things that are not there that you wish were? What are the things that are there that you could care less, and really dive in what's most important for you. And this is where the question of why is going to be really important. You've got to ask yourself, why do you want that? And really make sure it's what you want. Because again, the goal is to put in the center of your plan and build around the life that you want, truly what you want, regardless of what anybody else says. Worry about, overcoming the imposter syndrome that might come up with it. Worry about caring about what others might think when you tell them what you're going to do with your life. Worry about that later. Tune all of that out. No buts allowed. What would you want your life to look like? What would you be doing? Where would you be at? Who would you be with? What's the house look like? What's the car look like? What's your clothes look like? All those details. Think of your life and what you want it to be, as many details as possible, and write all those things down and start to visualize that life. And then make sure it is you that is coming up with that vision, not the influences of others that are making that vision. And once you know it's really yours, which will probably be 2 lives down this process. So you do your first one, you reflect on it, you look at it, you ask yourself, is that really what I want? Why? And you go through the exercise. You write down the new version. You let that sit for a minute. You look at that, you reflect on it, you ask yourself why again. And then that third version that comes out is probably going to be closer to the you that you want and the life that you want. When you get to that one, you go through the first 2 evolutions. That's the one that we need to start looking at. Okay, how do I make that work financially? What are the numbers that I need? How much do I need to make? How much do I need to be saving? What does the long term of that plan look like? Meaning, am I retiring at 55, at 60, 65? See, when I talk about life planning and I think about creating this life built around your values and your passions, I don't know if sometimes people think, well, what about retirement? What about college? Naturally, those stereotypical goals are going to find their ways into your ideal life and your ideal plan. They're going to be there. But the thing is, they're not the primary focus of it like everything else. They are a detail of this life that you're trying to create. They're no different than buying a new house. They're no different than taking than moving. They're no different than a vacation. Yes, the numbers needed for college and retirement will obviously be different, will be much larger, but it is not the primary focus. The primary focus is the life. The primary focus is your happiness. The primary focus is minimizing regret through that great life. That is the focus. Everything else is a detail along the way. The when is important, the how much becomes important, but that's not the focus. It's just a detail in the story that you are going to be creating, and we can get to that later. So when I tell you create the life that you want, it doesn't mean we're not going to talk about retirement, talk about college, and any other of those traditional goals. It just means it's not the primary focus. The financial plans that I used to use when I worked at a large corporation, all that was in there was a retirement section, a life insurance section, and a college planning section. There's nothing about the sabbatical you might want to take. There's nothing about the European trip that I want to take with my family. Spend a month and a half in Europe living in different cities. That wasn't a part of the plan, but that's a big part of the life that I want to create and I want to plan for. There are numbers associated with that, and it's one stop along the way of my hopeful, long life. So find the version of life that you truly want. And if you have a significant other, make sure they are a part of that conversation. You don't get to determine somebody else's life. It's a partnership. Both of you should have impact on what this is and talk through the differences you may have and create the life that's right for everybody, and know what you may have to trade off. I know that California is right for me, but it's not right for my family. And I'm willing to trade off on that for my family. And that allows us to do other great things as a family, travel and things of that sort. So it's not like it's the worst thing in the world that I may not go to California because I'm going to Cancun for New Year's with my family. That wouldn't be happening if I was in California. So then the way we work through that is through conversations. I asked them about moving to California. I asked my wife about moving to California. We've had conversations about it, and I know where everybody stands, and I know what's most important to me, even on the inside of my circle, what ranks higher. And being in Indiana does not, at this point, impact my health, my emotional health, my physical health. So it is less important than my family. So getting back to the life planning. So figuring out the life that you want and then go and build the numbers around that. And this is where the details of the plan, again, where I really do think a financial advisor is going to come into play and be very helpful. Yes, I'm biased because that is the career I have chosen and that I love, but knowing where to place money, knowing how much to save, how to invest that's going to go in your plan is going to be, I think, harder to go on your own than if you were just going to a typical career, saving in a 401k, saving for college, knowing where do I need to save money so I have it accessible to me when I want to go do this at 40 and 45, and how should I invest that money since I'm only 40 today? Should it be in the market? Should it be in bonds? Should it be in cash? What's the right mix? There's a lot that goes into that. If all you're saving for is retirement and college, there's a couple vehicles that get you there. Depending on your age, be aggressive and be diversified. It's a lot easier to do that type of planning on your own than I think it is to think about the tax implications and where you should be putting funds, and how you should manage along the way if you are building for pursuit. So I am going to go out on a limb and say that if you are building the life that you want, you're on your pursuit, you're doing things your way, a financial advisor and a financial plan are going to be non-negotiables. I think it's a relationship that will be very valuable to you and will also allow you to go enjoy the life that you're creating, not having to worry about all the details of the plan as well. So again, if you need an advisor that talks about that actually does life planning, let me know. I know of plenty that I can introduce you to that would be a good fit to help you on your way. But I want to encourage you to think about the life that you want, think about the planning that goes behind it, and begin to look for or read up on your own about the concept of life planning. Life planning is just that. It's not a financial plan. Financial planning is a part of a life plan. The life plan is, what is the life that you want? And then how do you make the numbers support that? And if you know what you want, I think the number part becomes a little bit easier. And any of the, let's call them sacrifices or trade-offs you might have to make on the number side to make it work are worth it because you're going for what you want. It's tough to say, all right, this is not the life that you want, but I want you to sacrifice this money today so you can do something in the future that you don't really want to do. But if I'm telling you, hey, don't go buy that thing or don't take that trip this year so we can apply those funds towards you starting your business next year, or for you taking that trip in 2 years, when it's the thing that you really want, the thing that you're passionate about, it's a lot easier to forego that instant gratification for something down the road. So again, tying the emotional component, which I think life planning is much more emotional. Traditional financial planning, I feel like there's emotions involved, but it's not quite as emotional. So that's what I wanted to hit on today. Check the show notes over on pursuit.co/library to get to all of these. I'm gonna have some books for you to kind of read up. Some of Kinder's books, maybe a couple podcast episodes I know Scott Frank has been on, and just learn more about this style of financial planning. If you happen to be a financial advisor tuning into Pursuit, because I know some of you are, look into this. This is the type of planning that clients are going to want, whether they are clients that are on their Pursuit or they don't even know that this type of planning exists. Once you start talking to them about this type of planning and helping them construct these types of plans, they're going to want it and they're going to sing your praises. So for the non-advisors, check the resources I have in the show notes over on the blog to learn more about it, but really start to reflect on your own and think about creating the life that you want. That's a part of the Pursuit. It's great to have the ideas. It's great to have the passion. It's great to have the drive, but eventually you're going to have to put the numbers to the game. And the numbers to the game are going to be an important part of your plan, whereas, I think a financial advisor who specializes or does life planning is going to be very helpful to you. So with that, I will let you get on to your day. Thanks for joining me on my Pursuit. It's an honor to be a part of yours, and let's keep pursuing.